So hi, let's make a start. Go nice and easily. Watch this live, or maybe we'll even watch it on a recording. Getting some very warm weather. Remember to take a few sips of water every now and then, just to make sure you stay topped up as it were. So, just to start off with, let's do this little self-massage tapping exercise. Starting by just rubbing your hands together, take the chill off the fingers, and then with the pads of your fingers, just tapping lightly over your face, pushing your jaw a little bit. And nice, steady, light rhythm, and then work up over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder, and your arm. The other side. The lower part of your back. Use one hand or both hands. Other way, fine. Work down towards your hips, buttocks going around your hips. And then the outside of your hips, the inside. Lighten them. Finally, the upper part. And then, nice and easy, standing with your feet directly below your hips. Try and just let your hips drop back a little bit, turning in the center part of your body. The initial stages of any practice session on your own or in a class always put a lot of emphasis on bringing your attention into your body, so you're able to just listen to your body, get a sense for what's going on in that inner landscape, where there might be areas that are a bit stiff or a bit tight, areas that are moving more freely. Maybe aware of your breathing, if that's useful to you. And just gradually giving yourself time to settle in, to begin to move more freely. Not a process that can be hurried, but one that, if you practice regularly, then becomes smoother, more accessible. But it will always take a little bit of time. And in many ways, I think it's one of the most valuable of the sort of benefits of the art. It's one of the things that we can take directly into our lives is this sense of awareness of what's going on a moment-to-moment basis in our bodies. It's good because we can begin to move in accordance with whatever's happening. We don't want to create a strain just by our everyday movements. And also because it's a good way of just developing this sense of calmness, this sense of stillness in our thoughts, not a constant stillness. Our thoughts are lively and quite rightly so, hopefully. But a kind of touching base, though, that this feeling of stillness, this sort of break in that rush of thoughts, actually has a chance to develop and becomes more accessible, more normal for us. I love the phrase in the old Tai Chi writing that we should be seeking the stillness within the movement. So as you do this little exercise, maybe just going through a very quick, basic body scan, starting with your feet and just checking that your feet are in position, toes pointing forwards as much as possible, but remember that nothing should be forced, nothing strained. weight a little bit forwards in your feet and just allowing your hips to drop back. So we have this gentle curve through hips and knees, not straining in your knees. You probably feel that the muscles of your legs are working a little bit harder. But in time, again, with practice, as they condition, this becomes a more accessible posture and it allows this feeling of your weight dropping down. Thinking about the center of your body almost sort of sliding down, sitting onto the ground. Similar to sort of squatting, we're not going all the way down, but just similar to that sense of resting downwards. When we turn in the center of the body, we can feel that movement going up to our ribs and our spine into our shoulders. So just aware of your back, play of movement as the muscles expand and contract in your back and your sides. And the front of your body just hanging from the back. So belly not pulled in, not tight, just developing an elastic muscle tone there. Similarly in the solar plexus, chest and ribs, so that we begin to feel that there's a sense of space for movement. Now, movement is variously described. Sometimes we like to talk about the feeling of being massaged internally by them. Another way of describing it is that the internal tissues and the organs feel as though they're being gently bathed in the movement, in the energy. These are all ideas, images that we can begin to focus our intentions through, to encourage our body to find a posture and a way of moving that helps us to develop those qualities. And again, with practice, this becomes a more intuitive process. We can never ignore what I think of as the technical side, the awareness of alignment, where our knees are, where our shoulders are, where our hips are. But rather those two aspects work together. Sometimes simply having the intention to get that feeling of being bathed, for instance, may be enough. If we practice this for a while, it kind of reminds us how this can feel. Other times when it doesn't quite work like that, we might want to refer back to technical sides of things. We want to feel that our knees, for instance, aren't overextending. Or posture. Excuse me. The knees above the balls of your feet, aligned from shoulders to hips to ankles. This is if you work movement, obviously when you turn, we lose that line a little bit. So between these two aspects, the intuitive and the technical, gradually, gently come into an appropriate posture. Whatever else you're interested in these arts, these are the first stages. These are the things that we do. These are the ingredients, if you like, of the larger movements. And turn your hands palm out, raise them up a little bit, not too high, elbows hanging down, spread your fingers out. Just in the interest of becoming more aware as you do this, try changing the level of your hands and your arms, dropping them down, raising them up, feeling what changes in your upper body, particularly your sides and your back. Again, this is just a process of observation at this point. Your hands. One foot forwards. However long you've been doing this, the process of observation gradually leads to an awareness of what might be useful in terms of movements within the body, changes within the body, what works for us, what doesn't at any particular time. And we can bring a sense of intentionality to those changes. This is part of the ongoing process of development in Tai Chi. With this exercise, focusing very much on that sense of moving from the ground. Your weight moves from one foot to another, and when your weight moves and you maintain the alignment of your body, your whole body begins to move as one unit. Many of these things, I think, are more obvious to us when we are moving more quickly. You can get a sense of the flow of the movement, the rhythm of the movement, where that's working, where that's not working, what changes we need to bring about. More immediately than sometimes the more moving slowly. Change over. And then shake out. So these preparatory exercises are important. We sometimes refer to them as a warm-up, but really that's a bit misleading. I think obviously that can have a role, but obviously body temperature is not the only thing that we're on. So standing in the basic parallel posture, feet are hip width apart. And you can measure that hip width from the outside of your foot. It can just slightly narrow a stance, anywhere from there to the inside of your foot. We're all slightly different, and it's not necessarily going to be the same each time. You want to feel supported. And just begin to slowly rock your weight forwards and backwards in. One image that we commonly use in Tai Chi is that of moving through water, so that we're moving against an imagined resistance of the type that we would expect in water. This encourages a way of moving. Somebody once described Tai Chi as swimming on dry land, because when we move in water, we have a tendency not to stiffen up, and for joints to be soft and so on. And yet at the same time, it's quite a strong move. So imagine that you're moving through water. And if I take this pole, and you imagine this going up through the center of my body, you'll see as I move forwards and backwards, the whole of my body moves. I'm not bending at my hips, for instance, or nodding my head backwards and forwards, or moving my shoulders backwards and forwards. I'm trying to just gently maintain this line. So the pivot point at the moment is your ankles. I'll probably use that again. Now, as you go forwards, hold your hands out a little bit, spread your fingers out. And as you go forwards, again, imagining you're doing this in water, you go forwards, your arms are behind slightly, and then as you arrive in the front half of your feet, your hands swing forwards. And as you go back, your arms. So when you go forwards, you'll feel it. So you're pushing into the water with the front of your body. There'll be a slight extension in your chest. I exaggerate to my chest going forwards, and then when it starts to contract, that helps to bring my arms through. The same thing going back with the muscles of the upper back, but it shouldn't be very visible. I was exaggerating there to give you a sense of what can actually be felt, but these movements become increasingly subtle. We want to get a sense of our whole body moving as one unit. Our weight is moving in our feet, and obviously that's a huge influence. That comes up through our legs into our back and our spine. And then we have these patterns of expansion and contraction in upper and lower back, partly transmitted to our arms and our hands and fingers. Remember, the front of your body is supported by your back. So once again, try not to pull your belly in, tightening your chest. And that should just allow your breathing to settle, harmonize without the need for a particular breathing pattern. If you have a pattern that you use, that's fine, as long as it's comfortable for you. Or you can just observe how your body's breathing. See if you can just find a point somewhere in between. If I use the pole, if I move this pole forwards and backwards, then in theory, I can come up with a position where it will just stay there and I could let go of it and that wouldn't happen. It's a theoretical position because there are so many factors involved in that, but a sense of alignment with the pull of gravity, not looking for this, but as much as possible aligned with the pull of gravity. So again, forwards and backwards. If I were to say take this into the garden and get some guy ropes that you might put a tent up with, attach them to the pole and peg them out, that would also help to maintain this alignment. So maybe thinking in terms of there being a structure within your body. You know, the skeleton has been like the frame of a tent, and muscles, tendons, ligaments, fascia, all in one way or another representing skin of the tent, the guy ropes, so that we gradually come into a position of alignment, of equilibrium, noting where in your feet the weight seems to be at that point. So when we've done this for a while, from the rear position with your weight back in your heels, bring your hands around as though you're cradling the ball. Come forwards until you find that point of alignment. And as you get there, let your hips drop back. And then push it. Hips drop, shoulders follow, your arms follow. So we come into a position of alignment and then we'll just beginning to move, maintaining that alignment. As you push up, just imagine we're lifting the ball up. And then as you drop down, as though you're just pressing that ball down into water. Carry on with the exercise, but let me just show you, again, I'm going to exaggerate. As my hips drop back, I need to let my pelvis just adjust gently, it tucks under to maintain its alignment. This is not something that we try to do because it's too big a movement. If I start trying to manipulate my pelvis, I will get it wrong, but rather something that our body does quite naturally in response to a change in position. If you go to sit in a chair, for instance, your pelvis will tuck under to the appropriate distance. These are very fine, very important motor movements. And what we want to try and do is develop an environment within which these movements can take place without interference. So trying not to tighten up in the middle of your body, in particular, belly, lower back, hips. When you identify areas, as you almost certainly will, they may be a bit stiff in your lower back or your knees or something like that. Just looking for a gentle feeling of release. And again, carry on with the exercise. But here, I'll show you what I mean. If I hold my hand out, make a fist and grip it really tightly, I can feel the tension going all the way up through my body. I could just drop the fist down, but then I wouldn't have the structure anymore. But if you look carefully there, that's tight. What I can do is just open the fingers, create a space through there, and that feeling of a tightening to a looser grip is the transition from tightening to releasing. And this is the feeling that we're trying to intend all the way through the body. So again, listening to the body, observing what is going on, and then beginning to just apply a sense of intentionality in one way or another, maybe adjusting posture, maybe using an image or memory to enhance feeling the movement in the body. Remember, as though you're being gently massaged, being gently bathed. Listen, this exercise gradually allow you to drop your center of gravity a bit more fully. Rooting down. Rooting down is the first principle, physical principle that we look for in Tai Chi. The lower our center of gravity, the more stable we are, the less weight we have to carry in our upper body, more space there is. Then, letting your hands drop down, turning your fingers out a little bit, pushing up. Same idea in your hips, sinking down, but this time your arms being pushed out sideways, and they'll just naturally swing up. This is the exercise, the wild goose. Fingers disappearing and sort of that. Notice when I push up, my elbows move slightly before my hands, and likewise going down. Almost wave-like quality of movement in my arms and into my fingers. Movement builds from the ground through our body, through these patterns of expansion and contraction, filling into our arms and our hands. At the same time, we may find ourselves moving a little bit more in our arms. This is almost inevitable. But that can also create a flow of movement, a flow of energy that flows back into the body. So we're not ignoring the arms or the hands, but as much as possible, trying to build a movement from inside out. Just parting the clouds. I do one more of these on its own. And then going back to the first of these and doing the three movements in a little sequence, rooting down. Take your time as you change over, finish each movement. So from here, simply turn your fingers out. And next time you push up, going into the wild goose. And then as your hands drop down, all the way down this time, going into parting the clouds. Just notice the changes within your body from one movement to another. We could, for instance, the first movement, focus on that feeling of expansion, contraction within the body, the belly and lower back. Same thing as we begin the wild goose, but it moves up into our solar plexus and lower part of the chest. And then part in the clouds, it goes belly, solar plexus, and then right up into its chest and lungs. So we begin to see this almost two-way approach. How if we change the choreography with our arms and our hands, we get a different response within the body. We can bring a sense of intentionality to those internal responses and begin to create the movement from the inside out. Both are important. In the long term, as we get to know the movements better, the aim would be to build the movements from the inside to the outside. It's a more gentle, a more effective way of sustaining movement. We're more likely to be able to influence the movement by focusing on these small changes within the body, focusing on the flow of energy. But sometimes we need the stimulus of the external movement to point us at those qualities. One more round. Letting your hand drop down and then push up. This is dragon plucks the stars from the sky, extending through one side and going down. And then on the other side and going down. So sometimes we might have a more external focus. This is sometimes referred to as wide hand practice, external practice. Other times it might be more appropriate to focus internally. A lot depends on our individual state at the time. Sometimes it's easier to observe our arms to get that sense of gathering. Ultimately, the aim should be that there isn't a separation between inner and outer, I feel. But if, for instance, you were doing this outside, it might be that the touch of the air, if it was a cool touch on your fingers and your arms, the face, might be something that draws your attention. Other times it might be those very subtle changes within the body. One more on each side. And then putting the hands up. Just stand. So we have these three aspects of the whole practice. If you want to go to drink. The structural side, the physical awareness of structure, movement, the mechanics of the movement, so it's the body. We have our attention and our intention and how we can begin to influence the body's movements in various ways, maybe through an image, or those of you with more experience, through recalling the feeling, or various ways that we cultivate our intentionality. And then we have the movement itself, the flow, the energy. And these three things really influence each other. It's the trinity of Tai Chi, the three treasures of Tai Chi and Qigong. And they should be mutually supported. Think of them as the three legs of a tripod. Depending on We are, if you like, and so what's going on in our lives, we might find it better at one point or another to focus on one of those aspects, but never to the exclusion of the others, and always with the intention that, if our way in is to a physical awareness of the body, then that that way in leads us to an awareness of the other two. And again, depending on what what's happening and where we are, that might differ from day to day. So both the inner and the outer aspects are important to become familiar with. It's like getting to know a tool. If you have a hammer or something like that, you get to know how to use it, what it's appropriate for. Other times you might need to use a screwdriver, but the goal is to build something or to put something on the wall, something like that. So you use the appropriate tool for the appropriate task at the appropriate time. Just standing in this higher posture, weight slightly forwards and coming into line, and hips dropping back, pelvis just tucking under, so that we allow movement downwards through the body. We allow gravity free passage through the body. And a particularly good point of reference here is going to be your hips. Again, if I come closer and exaggerate slightly, I go forward and I get a hip hanging back. So it's, sorry, I was leaning back there. I was about to say don't lean back, but I did lean back. So again here, there, that's better. You feel a sense of lower back, hips and buttocks overhanging slightly. It's quite strong in the muscles of the legs. But as you stand like this, there's a counter movement pushing upwards. It's like dropping into water in a swimming pool. You drop down and then you feel the push up. Imagine if you could find a midpoint. This is what we're looking for the next couple of exercises. So we have that sense of movement, of energy flowing within the body. Bring your hands lightly touching the outside of your hips with the inside of your hand or your arm, and then raising up, lengthening through your back, pushing up a little bit, not too high, and then down. Back, touching the side of your hips, and then pushing out. So we feel the body contracting inwards to this central area, that area dropping towards the ground, and then expanding out from there. And becoming very focused on the center part of the body, that area between hips and pelvis, and waist. It can become the location to rest our thoughts in. It's the part of the body we wish to drop towards the ground, with the rooting down. So there's an aspect to this where, as we go through this movement, we're regularly coming back to a sense of being very centered, very grounded in our thoughts, just for a moment, but really try and just recognize and enjoy that moment. Don't leave your hands out here, let them come in, pushing out, and back. There's just a sense of settling there. A point in the movement where it feels almost like in a sentence, there's a comma place. Doesn't break the flow, you don't lose the flow. But you're not rushing into the next one. This is the stillness within the movement. So this time, with that awareness of the center part of your body, as you push out, just turn a little in your hips, noticing how that redirects your arms. And then back, turn the other way. Notice whether you're inclined to rush the inward movement, which is very common, and then pushing it. The rhythm of the movement is very regular: expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. Yang, the yin, the yang, the yin. Really trying to make them as regular and as even as possible. Recognizing that that may well involve you putting a little bit more emphasis on that inward contracting movement, which is often the one who are more inclined to rush. This is called pushing in four directions. And recognizing again the huge significance of that central part of the body in deciding and guiding the direction of the movement. Maybe recalling that image of moving through water, or if you prefer, just imagine your hands joined by a giant elastic band. You stretch out and then allow it to contract slowly. And that can be a useful image for cultivating the tone of the soft tissue within the body, and elasticity to that tone. And I would include not just the actual physical tissue, but blood and body fluids and the flow of energy as really partaking of that elasticity. You may find that your breathing again just settles in to that steady rhythm. If it doesn't, don't force that. One more round of this. Again, particularly people more experienced with this look to be able to feel the changes, changing patterns of expansion and contraction within your body, developing a discrimination about which ones are aiding the movement and qualities of the movement that you're trying to cultivate. Your hands drop down, still maintaining that posture with your hips hanging back. This time again on one side, the expansion, pushing your arm out, let it swing up straight down the center line. The weight of your arm hanging from the shoulder for a moment. And then, so again, there's that moment where everything just seems to settle into your center, into the ground. Not feeling rushed in the movement. And this time, you get to the top, turn a little bit in your center, drawing your hand across your body. Again, as though you're moving through water, or as though you're stretching out the elastic band. Changing sides. And if you try different images, notice the significance of a particular image. Not every image will help you, mean something. When it does, we can begin to appreciate the huge significance of that use of imagery, that use of intention, and how it affects our bodies. And that moment of settling each time actually creates the space for that awareness. Adding the term, so that aspect of the stillness within the movement really is essential for helping to cultivate them. Our thoughts rush ahead, start to lose the precision of the movement. We lose the awareness, fail to notice significant details. Now, going back to sinking down and pushing up, be very careful of your knees. This time, we're going to change the alignment of the pelvis by pushing our hips back. That will send our head and shoulders forwards. And then to come to the upright position, just allowing gravity to draw your hips down and push. So we sink down to deepen the root. Our hips go back, angling forwards, not bending the back, and then to come upright with a nice smooth open quality. Letting gravity do the work of raising our head. Bringing the arms into the movement. This is rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. Just be very careful with the knees and back. Doesn't have to be a big movement. I'm trying to do these movements quite big so that you can see the mechanics. But it isn't necessarily the case that the bigger the movement, better. Maybe just aware of that slight extension through the spine, the spaces between the vertebrae. Gentle lengthening. That sometimes it's the smaller movements can be more revealing. On the other hand, it can be quite nice to do a bigger movement, gets a little bit stretchy, enables you to extend out a little bit more, so whatever is appropriate. Now, hands palm down, turn. Push your hips back again so the hands go forwards. Swing your hips across, pulling the arms around and back. This is polishing the table. Then your arms extending into a nice smooth, fluid circle. In the back, again, exaggerating. You see what happens in my hips. Still images like the elasticity within your body, like moving through water. One more in each direction. Good, and let your hands drop down. Now, turn one foot out. Once again, step forward. Keep the width of your step. You can see the background between my legs, about the same in length. And once again, more slowly this time, beginning to transfer your weight. Talk about the elasticity in the body. Another way of viewing that is there's a springiness, particularly in our legs. So once again, as you go back, just letting your weight settle, releasing in your hips and your knees to load the spring, and then feeling the push. Doesn't it take you forwards into the front leg? Same thing in the front leg. So again, this sense of settling actually creates the potential for that rise in movement, that rise in energy from your foot and the ground. Essential to the movement. The stillness within the movement is not an added extra or something that we'll do later. It's actually part and parcel of the cultivation of the whole. If as you settle into your back foot, you carefully raise your front toes, a bit more of your weight will go in. You have the front foot turn out here. Go forwards, push your back knee forwards. Gradually bringing your body more into line over your supporting leg. Earlier, we found that alignment of the body over both legs in the parallel stance. And it may be that recalling the feeling of that helps you to come into this alignment over one leg. And then as you settle in, bring foot in, step out, put your heel down, lower the ball of the foot, press into the floor. Back foot in, push out, put the ball of the foot down first, then your heel. Let the weight move. You plant the foot. So careful about the placing and the planting of the foot. Don't rush this. So you're walking on thin ice. So what you want to try and do is you want to test the ice before you commit your weight. You can do that partly because it's a shorter than normal step. You're not striding. Again, you can imagine moving through water. In fact, you imagine walking in the sea or in a stream that's running a bit fast. You'd be very careful about your footing. Make sure the foot was in a good position before you committed the weight. And the other foot forwards. Same idea. First of all, what we would call in Tai Chi, fixed step, not rushing into the stepping. Our legs filling them empty. Maybe just aware as you go forwards of the pressure of the water against the front of your body, against your back as you go back. Feeling change that encourages within your body. You get almost a sense of a wave flowing forwards and then backwards. And in the process, again, that massaging quality, that bathing quality through the whole of your upper body. And into your back foot, raising your toes. Going into your front foot, pushing the knee forwards, the heel coming up. And a careful step. Facing and planting your foot. Releasing into the supporting leg, so loading the spring. So there's the energy to move. And then take a few steps through, forwards or backwards. Paying careful attention to the process of moving. What is helping the walking? What is helping your stability? What is perhaps getting in the way? And then going back. So now, have your right foot forwards, mirror my movements. Start with your weight and your back foot. Like the earlier exercise, you did imagine doing this in water. Move your weight forwards and then feel your arms following. Fisherman cast the net. So now that movement, that energy that we felt in the legs and in the movement of the weight flows up into our upper body, into our back, into the front of our body, and once again into our arms. So this ability that we cultivate to root down, to yield to the pull of gravity, initiates a cycle of movement, a cycle of energy, which we then begin to shape. Fisherman cast net is very simple, so you just imagine the shape, the curve that your fingers are flowing through, letting your body flow through that shape, having the intention to, in a sense, to be that shape. This time, when you go into your back foot though, as your arms swing through, turn to your right towards the front leg so that your arms swing forwards and backwards. This is the exercise, wind blows the willows. So again, we feel how a very simple movement in the center of the body, a turn to the left or a turn to the right, can have a very big influence on the shapes, movements in the upper body. And on a more subtle level, we sort of view the movement, we guide our intentionality through that center part of the body. Mind creates the shape. The center will transform that shape into a physical movement. Wind blows the wind. And then, so that aspect of imagining the shape, transmitting the intention to move into that shape is obviously something that with more experience, more familiarity with the movements becomes more accessible to us. And again, it's part of this whole process of feeling the movement building from inside and from the interaction of these three legs of the tripod, body, mind, and energy. So have your left foot forwards now. We begin with the exercise fisherman cast and net. This is a good exercise to practice these ideas, to cultivate these ideas, because it's so very, very simple. And if you spend time with this exercise, you'll begin to really appreciate the subtleties of the changes within the upper body. Observing where parts of your body expand, contract as your arms change position. Not straining in your shoulders. So you're moving through water. That image, again, has other aspects than just the flow of the movement, because it encourages a very subtle conditioning of body and energy, developing a sense of internal resilience, of internal strength. Changing into wind blows the willows. Expanding, contract. Expanding as you settle into the leg and turn, and then contracting as you transfer. Remembering in the back of your mind still the intention to settle, to release into the supporting leg. Make sure that the movements in the upper part of your body haven't dominated your awareness. Trying to retain that sense of your whole body one smoothly. Now coming into your front foot, push your back knee in. You could do this going backwards. That's easier to go forwards. Bring the foot in, step forwards, place the foot, plant the foot, go forwards, contracting, settling into the front foot, expanding, pushing the back knee forwards, stepping. This is dragonfly skins the water. And what you may find is that once you brought the foot in, you can comfortably raise the foot. If this is a bit too sort of strenuous, too wobbly for you, then leave that bit out. More important to feel that you can move smoothly, that you've got that sense of alignment in the body, stability. You could just do it with the toes lightly down. Now, changing direction. When we go back, you plant the foot back, You raise the toes, you settle in, you bring the foot in again, toes down, and then maybe lift it. If you do find that it's a strain to as you start to lift your leg, just leave the toes down. It's just that tiny bit of support can actually really help to stabilize your body and will in the end lead you to being able to raise your foot up and gain more confidence in that. Don't be in a hurry to do that. Changing direction once again. This is Dragonfly Skims the water. Even more experienced people notice what I'm doing is I'm not lifting my foot, I'm bringing it in and then raising it. The foot comes into the center. Hip joint rotates, bringing your knee up. So somebody's just lifting your leg for you. Change direction again if you haven't done so already. Remembering to plant your foot. Hips dropping back. One more time. And bring you. The standing on one leg bit, it really is an application of intention. Because one of the things we can do if you're finding it tricky, and this is how I develop this exercise, and I still do this sometimes. Now I can hold on to someone, I can just put my hand on the wall for a bit of extra stability and support. And that means I can just have my foot here and I can start to think, well, how is the best way to bring my leg up in this way? You know, what is my hip tightening up? Am I tightening in my shoulders? Can I find a way to maintain the alignment of the body to allow that to happen more smoothly? And gradually learning to maintain this sense of alignment and the root while I bring my leg up. And that's, again, it's an ongoing process. So mind intention is a key point of that. So to finish, just the exercise Embrace Tiger, Return to Mountain, focusing on this inward contracting aspect of the art. Let your weight sink down, push up, expand, but then feeling the pull of gravity on our hips, on our shoulders, and our elbows. We bring our hands around and in and return into the mind, body, ground center. And just observing this and identifying which aspects are most obvious to you, which things, maybe picking one or two things, an image or a sensation within the body that will help you later in the day. You know, things get a bit frantic or a bit hectic. What would be good for you to remember? This exercise or previous exercises, just to give you that little moment of spaciousness, feeling more settled. Embrace Tiger, return to the mat. Just come and stay. Your arms hang down. Maybe close your eyes, aware of your posture, aware of your breathing, aware of the sense of stillness. And then with the relationship. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Join in, please, as always, feel free. If you have any questions, do get in touch. Bye for now.